They walked into the prestigious hospital seeking relief from postpartum depression. They woke up months later with no memory of their names, their families, or how to speak, their minds deliberately erased by the man who was supposed to heal them. Nestled on the slopes of Mount Royal sits a grim, imposing stone mansion known as the Ravenscrag. Within its walls operates the prestigious Allan Memorial Institute. It is a beacon of psychiatric hope. The man in charge is Dr. Donald Ewen Cameron. He isn't a fringe scientist. He is a titan. President of the American Psychiatric Association. President of the World Psychiatric Association. He is the man you go to when everything else fails. Patients arrive seeking salvation from everyday miseries. Postpartum depression. Anxiety. Minor neuroses. They walk through the heavy wooden doors expecting therapy. They expect healing. Instead, they cross the threshold into a nightmare funded by the darkest corners of the intelligence community. The air inside smells of antiseptic and quiet despair. The nurses are instructed to keep records, but not all records. Beneath the veneer of medical prestige, a sinister philosophy is taking root in Cameron's mind. He believes the human brain is like a cassette tape. To fix the recording, you first have to erase the tape completely. Utterly. He calls it depatterning. It sounds clinical. It sounds scientific. But the reality is the systematic destruction of human consciousness. To his patients, he is a savior. They trust him implicitly. They sign the consent forms. They lay down on the crisp white sheets of the hospital beds. The needle goes in. The barbiturates flow. Thorazine. Nembutal. Seconal. The world goes dark. A deep, unnatural sleep descends. A sleep that will not end for days, weeks, or even months. As the heavy doors of the sleep rooms click shut, the patients are no longer citizens with rights. They are raw material. What happens when the architect of your mind decides to tear the building down to its foundation? The silence in the sleep rooms is unnatural. It is heavy. Suffocating. It is broken only by the rhythmic hum of medical equipment and the shallow, drug-induced breathing of the subjects. This is the first phase of depatterning. Prolonged, chemical comas. Patients are kept unconscious for up to 86 days. They are awakened only twice a day for feeding and biological needs. But sleep is not the only weapon in Cameron's arsenal. To truly erase a mind, you must shatter its existing structures. Enter electroconvulsive therapy. ECT. In standard practice, ECT is used sparingly. A single shock, carefully administered. Cameron uses it like a blunt instrument. He unleashes multiple interventions, up to 6 massive shocks in a single day, administered for 30 consecutive days. The voltage is staggering. The convulsions are so violent that patients' bones would snap if not for the heavy doses of muscle relaxants like curare. The goal is simple: total amnesia. Complete regression. The subject must forget everything. Their names. Their families. How to walk. How to talk. How to control their bowels. Consider Linda McDonald. A young mother suffering from depression. She walks into the Allan Memorial Institute looking for a way back to her life. Cameron subjects her to an intensive regimen of depatterning. When she finally emerges from the chemical haze, the Linda McDonald who entered the institute is dead. The woman who wakes up has no memory of her childhood. No memory of her husband. She does not know her own children. She cannot read. She cannot write. She is a blank slate, adrift in an adult body. She has been effectively uncreated. If a doctor can successfully erase a person's entire history, their very soul, who, or what, is left to inhabit the empty vessel. The mind is empty. The canvas is blank, scraped raw by the relentless electroconvulsive shocks and the heavy, suffocating blanket of chemical comas. Now, the rebuilding begins. Dr. Cameron calls this next phase psychic driving. It is a form of psychological programming so relentless, so meticulously cruel, it borders on the demonic. The patient, still heavily drugged with massive doses of LSD and terrifying paralytics, is fitted with a specialized, heavy football helmet. The weight of it presses down on their skull, a constant physical pressure. Inside the helmet, pressed tightly against their ears, are hidden speakers. Or, in some wards, the speakers are concealed beneath their pillows, ensuring the sound cannot be escaped even in restless sleep. The physical environment is oppressive. The flickering fluorescent lights hum with a low, electrical buzz that vibrates in the teeth. The air is thick with the sterile smell of bleach and the metallic tang of fear. Cold sweat pools at the nape of the patient's neck. For 16 agonizing hours a day, sometimes for uninterrupted weeks on end, a continuous magnetic tape loop plays. Over and over. Hundreds of thousands of times. The voice on the tape is often Cameron's own authoritative drone, or sometimes the patient's own voice, distorted and weaponized against them. The rhythmic clicking of the tape reel turning becomes the metronome of their suffering. The messages start overwhelmingly negative, designed to crush any remaining resistance. You are a bad mother. Your husband hates you. You are worthless. The words systematically break down their final psychological defenses. Then, the messages slowly shift to positive, commanding directives. You will be happy. You will be obedient. You will comply. The static hiss of the cheap tape recording becomes the inescapable soundtrack of their fractured existence. The words bore into their vulnerable, shattered psyches like rusty drills. Imagine waking from a medically induced coma, your muscles completely paralyzed, your mind hallucinating wildly from the LSD. You are trapped in total, suffocating darkness, with a disembodied voice whispering into the very center of your brain on an endless, inescapable loop. The sterile smell of the ward and the humming lights are your only connection to reality. This is not medical therapy. It is the cold, calculated manufacturing of an entirely new human being from the wreckage of the old. Can a human soul truly be overwritten by the static hiss of a magnetic tape? Who pays for these violent tremors and cold sweats? Who funds the systemic dismantling of human consciousness? It is not the Canadian public health system alone. The vast resources required for this atrocity come flowing from the shadows of the intelligence community. Specifically, the Central Intelligence Agency. In the suffocating, paranoid atmosphere of the Cold War, the United States government is utterly terrified by rumors of Soviet brainwashing techniques. They feel they must possess their own covert mind control program. They create the sprawling, highly classified initiative known as Culture. A massive undertaking spanning dozens of universities, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies. But the CIA cannot legally perform these extreme, life-threatening experiments on American citizens on American soil. They need a proxy. They need a willing, prestigious architect beyond their immediate borders. They find their perfect candidate in Montreal. Through a clandestine front organization deliberately misnamed the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology, the CIA funnels tens of thousands of untraceable dollars directly to Dr. Cameron. This specific nightmare is designated Subproject 68. The bureaucratic horror is staggering. Men in crisp, gray suits sit in brightly lit, sterile offices, casually signing funding authorizations while, miles away, patients convulse strapped to beds, their bodies covered in cold sweat. The patients at the Allan Memorial Institute have absolutely no idea they are unwitting foot soldiers in a clandestine intelligence war. They are civilian casualties in a global battle they do not even know is happening. The physical environment of the hospital, the humming lights, the sterile smell of iodine, the polished floors, hides the visceral horror of the basement wards where the true experiments take place. The highest echelons of a democratic government are actively sanctioning the psychological torture of ordinary housewives, students, and businessmen. If the very people sworn to protect your freedom are the ones secretly funding the destruction of your mind, where do you run when the nightmare begins and the doors lock behind you? The physical environment of the experiments is meticulously and sadistically designed for maximum sensory deprivation. To amplify the devastating impact of the psychic driving tapes, the most resistant patients are placed in what is known as the grid room. It is a specially constructed, windowless space where the subject is completely isolated from all external stimuli. The walls are stark, the lighting is harsh, and the air conditioning units hum with an oppressive, monotonous drone. The sterile smell of medical-grade cleaner burns the inside of their nostrils. To ensure absolute compliance, they are injected with curare, a terrifying paralytic toxin traditionally used by indigenous hunters on the tips of blow darts. The drug paralyzes the voluntary muscles, including the diaphragm, making every breath a conscious, agonizing effort. They cannot move their limbs. They cannot turn their heads. They cannot scream. Their eyes are sometimes covered with opaque goggles, plunging them into total darkness. Their ears are filled with the endless, looping directives of the magnetic tape. Their bodies are completely restrained, rendered entirely useless and trapped beneath the heavy hospital blankets. They are imprisoned inside the claustrophobic confines of their own skulls, force-fed a fabricated reality designed entirely by their captors. The combination of heavy LSD doses, total physical paralysis, and absolute sensory deprivation induces profound terror and incredibly vivid hallucinations. The boundary between the self and the surrounding void dissolves completely. They are adrift in a chemically induced purgatory, suspended in a state of living death. They are essentially ghosts haunting their own living bodies, paralyzed and sweating cold sweat onto the crisp white sheets. Like and subscribe to keep your mind safe. When the human senses are deliberately starved, when the body is frozen in terror, and the humming lights are the only constant, what unimaginable horrors does the isolated mind conjure in the pitch-black dark? Consider the tragic case of Velma Orlikow. She is the prominent wife of a respected Canadian member of Parliament. She is intelligent, articulate, well-connected, but she is suffering from chronic physical pain and mild postpartum depression. Desperate for a cure, she checks herself into the esteemed Allan Memorial Institute, completely trusting the internationally renowned Dr. Cameron to heal her. The environment seems safe. The sterile smell of the corridors and the gentle humming lights project an aura of advanced medical science. But soon, the nightmare begins. She is given massive, unrecorded doses of LSD up to 14 separate times. She is abruptly subjected to the relentless psychic driving regimen. The hidden tapes play endlessly under her pillow, methodically eroding her fundamental sense of self. She later describes the harrowing experience as a living hell. The powerful hallucinogens make her intensely paranoid. The looping tapes make her question her own fundamental sanity. Cold sweat drips down her face as she lies paralyzed in her bed. Gradually, she loses her ability to read a simple book. She loses her ability to hold a coherent conversation. She loses her capacity to function normally as a caring mother and a supportive wife. She walks through those heavy doors seeking simple relief from a persistent headache and emotional fatigue, and she comes out a thoroughly broken woman, a hollow shell of her former vibrant self. Her high social status and political connections offer her absolutely no protection from the horrors of the ward. The experiments do not discriminate between social classes. The incredibly wealthy, the destitute poor, the politically powerful, and the entirely powerless, all are equally reduced to disposable test subjects under Dr. Cameron's terrifying, clinical gaze. If even the political elite cannot escape the horrors hidden in the basement of a prestigious hospital, what possible hope is there for the ordinary, trusting citizen seeking help? The ultimate tragedy of Cultura Subproject 68 is not merely the excruciating pain endured during the active experiments. It is the permanent, irreversible devastation left in their wake. When the CIA funding eventually dries up, and the broken patients are quietly released back into society, they are not cured of their ailments. They are completely shattered. They return to loving families they no longer recognize. They return to complex lives they no longer remember how to live. The catastrophic depatterning process worked exactly as intended, but the promised repatterning failed completely. Dr. Cameron successfully destroyed their minds, but he could not rebuild them into functioning individuals. The survivors suffer from severe, retrograde amnesia, chronic and paralyzing anxiety, terrifying nocturnal flashbacks, and crippling, suicidal depression. Many of the victims require lifelong, intensive institutionalization just to survive. The very minor psychological illnesses they originally sought treatment for are magnified 100-fold by the trauma. They become wandering strangers in their own homes, stumbling through the ruined fragments of their intentionally erased identities. The simple, everyday environment becomes a minefield. The sterile smell of a household cleaner or the sudden humming lights of a grocery store can trigger a massive, debilitating panic attack, leaving them drenched in cold sweat and gasping for breath. They have been brutally robbed of their past memories, and by direct extension, they have been robbed of their entire futures. They are trapped in a perpetual state of fear and confusion. What is the inherent value of a human life if its entire history, its personality, and its very essence can be permanently deleted with a simple syringe, a brutal electric shock, and the endless rotation of a tape reel? As the turbulent decade of the 1960s dawns, the global political climate rapidly shifts. The CIA grows increasingly nervous about its clandestine operations. The immense, sprawling scope of Cultura is quickly becoming a massive political liability. In 1964, Dr. Donald Ewen Cameron abruptly leaves his post at the Allan Memorial Institute. He officially retires, his professional reputation largely intact, his dark legacy continuously celebrated within the mainstream psychiatric community. He dies suddenly of a heart attack a few short years later, never facing a single legal consequence for the horrific atrocities he committed against innocent civilians. Behind him, in the shadows, the massive government cover-up begins in earnest. In 1973, acting under mounting pressure, CIA Director Richard Helms orders the immediate and total destruction of Ultra Project files. Mountains of highly classified evidence, the detailed medical records documenting the destroyed lives of thousands of subjects, are hastily fed into industrial incinerators. The humming lights of the basement archives flicker as the machines consume the paper. The sterile smell of the offices is replaced by the acrid stench of burning documents. The smoke rises from the chimneys, carrying the silenced screams of the victims into the ether. Bureaucrats wipe cold sweat from their brows as they erase history. But the fire does not consume absolutely everything. Due to a simple administrative error, a few obscure boxes of financial records are misplaced in a separate storage facility. They miraculously survive the purge. A thin but undeniable paper trail remains, firmly linking the CIA, the massive black budget funding, and the unspeakable medical horrors committed in Montreal. If the physical evidence of a crime is intentionally burned to ash by the state, does the crime still exist in the eyes of history? The horrifying truth refuses to stay buried beneath the ashes. In the late 1970s, through the relentless efforts of researchers, the surviving financial documents are finally discovered. Dedicated investigative journalists begin the arduous process of piecing together the terrifying puzzle of Ultra and its many subprojects. The aging survivors, the unwitting human test subjects of Subproject 68, slowly begin to realize the awful truth. They were not crazy. Their terrifying flashbacks and missing years were not the result of their own mental illness. They were the direct victims of a massive, state-sponsored conspiracy. They courageously band together to fight back. Velma Orlikow, Linda MacDonald, and several others launch a grueling, unprecedented legal battle against both the powerful CIA and the Canadian government. It is a classic David and Goliath struggle played out in sterile courtrooms under humming lights. The governments vehemently deny involvement, fiercely delay proceedings, and intentionally obfuscate the facts. They aggressively gaslight the very vulnerable people they had already systematically destroyed. It takes decades of bitter fighting, of agonizingly reliving the worst trauma imaginable while sitting in witness stands, dripping with cold sweat. The sterile smell of the legal offices brings back the ghosts of the hospital wards. But eventually, after years of relentless pressure, settlements are finally reached out of court. The meager financial compensation is a pathetic pittance compared to the vibrant lives and decades that were stolen from them. But the formal acknowledgement, the forced, public admission of guilt by the state, represents a monumental moral victory. Can a simple financial check from the government ever truly buy back a stolen mind, or erase the nightmare of the sleep rooms? The Allan Memorial Institute still stands proudly today on the scenic slopes of Mount Royal. The imposing stone building looks exactly the same from the outside. The dark ghosts of Subproject 68 still seem to wander its long, echoing halls. The terrifying legacy of Dr. Donald Ewen Cameron remains a permanent, dark stain on the history of modern psychiatry and international intelligence gathering. It serves as a chilling, undeniable reminder of exactly what happens when unchecked scientific ambition meets absolute, classified power. When fundamental human ethics are casually discarded in the name of national security or rapid scientific progress. The real, enduring horror of Subproject 68 is not that it was perpetrated by stereotypical, fictional monsters, but that it was carefully executed by highly respected men wearing clean white coats, operating in brightly lit, sterile medical rooms, and entirely funded by the tax dollars of the very citizens they swore to protect. The paper files may have been burned to ash, and the key perpetrators may have long since died comfortably in their beds, but the chilling static of the psychic driving tape still echoes loudly in the annals of history. The humming lights and the sterile smell of the ward are burned into the collective memory of the victims. As we continuously push the complex boundaries of modern neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and psychological manipulation today, we must pause and ask ourselves one final, deeply terrifying question while the cold sweat gathers. Are the heavy doors of the sleep rooms truly closed forever, or are they simply waiting in the darkness for a brand new set of trusting patients to walk through?